Hello. Welcome back to the Sabbath Show. We're back for the round 20 predictions. Now, I know in my latest video, I pretty much did a speed run of all my predictions for the rest of the season, but these videos are where I go a little bit more in depth. Anyway, we're going to hop right into this slate of games. First up, we have St Kilda and Carlton on Friday night, and both sides are seeing a couple of huge ins this week. I believe for St Kilda, Hunter Clark is back after that broken jaw from that incident, I reckon, 2 months ago, and Rowan Marshall is coming back from a 1 weeker. On the other side of things, it looks like Charlie Curnow is going to be back for this game, which is very exciting for Blue supporters like myself. It's been a very tough 2 years for Charlie. I think like 2 games before he got injured, he kicked a bag of 7. So you see the potential with him. I don't think we're going to be seeing him kick a bag of 7 in his first game back after 2 years, but I think it's a really strong step for him getting back to, his best form, his best games. It's really exciting. But look, I think in this one, St Kilda, they just look like a better side at the moment. We don't look like winning games, especially if we go out with the effort we had last week. St Kilda, they got within, 2 goals of West Coast. I think Max King will look very dangerous. I think, just St Kilda have a bit more polish. Brad Hill and Zach Jones, I think they're going to tear us up. If we aren't switched on from the first bounce, I think it could be a very similar result to last week or even uglier. So I think St Kilda just going to be too strong in this one. Charlie's back, which is good, but I still don't think that's going to translate into us winning because of our defensive issues. Anyway, let's move on to the next fixture. We have 5 games on Saturday. The Bulldogs are playing the Crows at 12:20. A very early start for them. The Bulldogs, they are coming off a pretty strong performance. That is a strong performance against the D's. And the Crows, they're coming off a win against the Hawks. So you compare the Scalps and you say, well, the Dogs, they've beaten obviously a much better side in the D's. Their big players were firing again last week. Bontempelli is very hard to stop. So I don't know if they're going to put like a Ben Keys or a Schoenberg onto Bontempelli, because I don't think they're going to quell his influence because of how big he is and how damaging he can be. He gets around the ground. And we saw that last week in the space of about 5 to 7 minutes, where the Dogs kicked 3 goals, and he was pretty much the pioneer of all of that. For the Crows, Rory Laird, as I mentioned last week, in my recap, or earlier this week, Laird's having a fine season. Keys is doing strong. They value Tex's presence in the forward line, and Tom Doedee was very good down back. But look, I think the Dogs, they've just got too much firepower, both up forward. Down back, they're a bit more vulnerable, but Shaki did very well. I think they're dealing with a very inexperienced Crows forward line. So look, I think the Dogs won't have too much difficulty in getting the job done here in Ballarat. Don't be surprised if the Crows, they hang around for a bit there and worry the Dogs and their supporters. We've got the Roos and the Cats at Blunston Arena at 1:15. Interesting time slot for a Saturday. But North coming off a huge win against us last week. And the Cats, they did it very, very well against Richmond. North, very strong month. They've improved drastically since the start of the year, when they lost by about 130 to the Dogs. No exaggeration there. So look, I think they're going to put up a fight, and they're going to, they're going to find a way. That wind in Tasmania does some strange things. And they've played some good footy up there. I believe they beat the Suns up there, and they drew to the Giants. So they've had some good games up there. They also, stuck with it against the D's as well, I believe. But look, I think the Cats, we say it week after week, their game style's boring, but, they always find a way to put in, a strong defensive effort and then match that with, you know, enough scores to get the job done. They don't necessarily blow it out of the park. They're not an offensive juggernaut. They don't really kick 100 points regularly. But, you know, that defensive effort basically gets the job done for them every week. So, look, I think the Cats are going to win this one. But I think North are going to stick around until the last quarter. I believe that Zerha may be out for the season. So, you know, that X factor is going to be gone. Who's to say that, you know, the Cats are going to get this job done very, very easily? I think North will put up a very strong fight. But I think the Cats will get the job done. The Suns will play Melbourne in what is still an undecided fixture for the moment at 3:10. Gold Coast, yeah, they started very well last week and then just absolutely disintegrated as a team against the Lions, and that's what good football sides do to you. The D's, they lost last week and they've won 1 of their last 4 games. But look, I think they're going to bounce back here. Their big players had big games last week and they still lost, which is a bit of a worry. And they still haven't figured out, as I mentioned in my recap, they still haven't figured out the forward line issue. Whether that's Ben Brown or Sam Wiedemann, they still haven't worked that one out. But I don't think those problems are going to hinder them in this game. The Suns, yeah, they've shown signs the last 6 weeks, I reckon. Ever since that Richmond win, I think the D's are just too strong an outfit to lose this one. So I think the D's will get the job done pretty convincingly. The Suns are going to struggle to score. They're going to pretty much fall into the same habits all game, and they're not going to make adjustments. I think the D's are going to get this one done on the back of a strong defensive effort. Collingwood play West Coast at 4:15 at the MCG, and Collingwood, yeah, they lost pretty valiantly against the Power last week, and the Eagles won a big game at home against the Saints. I think this game is going to be a bit tighter than the ladder suggests. West Coast, they haven't hit peak form for a very long time in the context of the season. And the Pies, you know, they're just introducing a lot of youngsters into their team. But I think the youngsters are going to have a big game. I said it would happen last week. But look, I think it could happen this week. West Coast, you know, they could let some real nobodies have some big games. It's actually tougher to predict this game than I first thought. I think the Eagles will get it done. They're not like historically known for having a good record at the MCG. And the Pies, you know, it's the home of football. And they've been to that ground many times. But look, I think the Eagles are just going to, you know, do a number on the Pies. I think their inexperience, the inexperience of the Pies is going to get to them, as it did last week, and they're missing Pendlebury. They looked a bit lost without him out there, to, you know, slow the team down, add a bit of composure. I think Sidebottom did a fair job of that, after Pendlebury went out. But in saying that, I think the Eagles are going to get the job done. We have one Saturday night game, and that is Essendon playing the Swans. And the Swans, you know, they are on fire. And I said in my predictions video for the rest of the season that the Swans will go on to win the final 4 games. And look, Essendon, they have been a very good side given all the youth that they've run out this season. It hasn't really come back to bite them because their players, young and old, have contributed in some big ways this season. But the Swans midfield is a monster. Last week I said Essendon would dominate against GWS. But look, it didn't happen. They actually got dominated. They got shut out. I think George Hewitt's going to tag one of Parish or Merritt. I think that's a no-brainer. And look, if one of those gets shut out, I don't know if the other's going to have a big game. And I don't know how much of a detriment that'll be to the Essendon midfield, the dynamic they've got going on there. But I just think the Swans are too strong here. Purely because, you know, their run of form, they haven't been streaky for a long time. The young players look like 200 gamers. I mean, Buddy's playing this week. Very questionable how he got off. Dane Rampy, he plays much taller than what he is. He's a huge asset to the team. You know, there's just good players running around everywhere for the Swans. And I think they're going to have too much class. No discredit to Essendon, but I think just the Swans are scorching hot at the moment. And they're just going to be too good. Hawthorn have Brisbane at UTAS. And I think this is just going to be a nice cheeky sweep by the Brisbane Lions. The Hawks, yeah, their backline's depleted. So the Hipwood loss isn't going to really factor into this game. I just think in all ways on the ground, the Lions are going to dominate. The Hawks have shown some good signs through their younger players, and they did so a couple of weeks ago. The Lions, as I said, last week they were going to win this game by kicking 75. They ended up kicking 120. I don't think they're going to repeat that. But I still think they're going to get the job done convincingly. I just think that the inexperience of the Hawks is going to really hurt them. Another game in Victoria that's undecided is GWS playing Port. Giants coming off a big win against the Bombers last week in an 8-point swing. I mean, every game's an 8-point swing, but this was huge for the finals hunt. And the Power beat the Pies. And the Power did it very convincingly. Their team looks pretty damn good and refined when everyone is fit. But unfortunately for them, their side, they've got a lot of players that are injury prone. And, you know, slowly they're coming back in, which is a really good sign for them heading into finals. For the Giants, they look much better with Mumford back in the side. Whitfield, you know, contributing to that run like he does pretty much every time he's out there. He makes a massive difference to this team. I think this is going to be a much closer game than some people may suggest, given, you know, the Power, where they're positioned and where the Giants are positioned. I think that the Power will, you know, do a number on the Giants, but not very convincingly. I think the Giants are going to have a bit of grit, a bit of hunger, a bit of passion, considering they're now in the 8 and they're fighting to hold on to that spot. So I think there's going to be, you know, a little bit more from the Giants than we've seen in recent weeks. But the Power, I think ultimately they're going to prevail, and their big players are going to have big games. I think Travis Boak's going to have a big one in game 301. Let's move on to the next one. Last game for the round, Fremantle playing Richmond, and we've had some crackers between these two sides in the last few years. This one's at Optus. Last time Richmond came here, I believe they prevailed. They've played West Coast up here, and they've played Essendon up here in the Dreamtime Clash. The Dockers, yeah, they've got a long run to the end of the season. They're going to struggle. They have no Fife. I believe Walters is out for a few. Darcy, you know, is still going. He's Iron Man, I swear to God, because he always goes down injured and just seems to return the next week, despite all those injury worries. But look, I think Richmond, they've had a very tough few weeks. Dusty out just absolutely killed them last week. They don't really know how to get the goals. I mean, it was against a pretty good defensive outfit in Geelong, probably the best in the league, where they only managed 8 goals. But I believe they're going to do a bit better this time around. Fremantle's defense is, you know, it's not very strong. They don't have a lot of tall timber down there. And, you know, they don't have much to deal with up forward. They've got Tracy, who's, you know, he's played a dozen games or less. There's no lob. They're rotating Meek and Darcy in the forward line as the second tall, which proved to be a disaster. And, you know, Matt Taberner, he hasn't been great. Who really knows with Fremantle? I think it's going to be a long road to the end of the season, as I said. I think Richmond, you know, they're going to find a way to get this done. It's not going to be pretty. They may only kick 10 goals for the match. And then again, they may kick 16. And Rewald will kick 6 or something stupid like that. But I think Richmond are going to get this one done pretty convincingly. That's not to say that Andy Brayshaw and Adam Cherra are going to have the game of their life and kick like 4 goals between them and have 60 touches between them. but that's very, very unlikely. So I think Richmond are going to get this one done. And that is all for this week's round 20 predictions. I hope you enjoyed this one. Smash like if you liked it. And subscribe if you want to hang around for more footy content. Yeah, that's all. So I'll see you for the next one. Peace out.